he denied everything. And it was really scary because we were kind of realizing we were in danger because he was looking for us. We were trying to hide at different friends and family's houses. Felt like, what can of worms did I just open? I was kind of regretting it for a while because it really shattered this perfect girl, perfect family kind of thing. And also we were fearing for our lives. He really was trying to find us everywhere we went.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Runnebaum, a suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. Welcome to another incredible episode. This one is with Nicole Bromley, and we discuss her experience with sexual abuse from her stepfather growing up, plus the circumstances that came about after she told her mother about the abuse, and then the advocacy work and all the work she's done on herself since then. And quickly, I want to remind everyone there's a new podcast series I've been working on, and it is out now. It's called Transgression, and it's all about trans issues in Saskatchewan. Now, it does take place in Saskatchewan, but of course, a lot of these trans issues are universal, so please go check that out. It is on Spotify, Apple, and all the other major podcast platforms out there. Please remember to share any of these episodes you want with anyone. Please remember to rate and review and all that kind of stuff. It's so very much appreciated. You can even do all that while listening to the episode. So if you're not driving, please do that stuff. But without further ado, I give you Nicole Bromley.
I grew up in a small Midwest American town. I think for many people in my town, was considered like the poster child of our community. You know, I was a straight A student. I was an athlete. I was popular. I mean, I was the homecoming queen. I was the captain of the basketball team and student council president. All the things on the outside seemed to look really good, and no one suspected that anything could have been going wrong. And so I think looking back, that was a mask that I wore, just covering up a lot of the pain and the shame that I carried inside and that I was hiding because I was being sexually abused by my stepfather. And I honestly think too, I was almost trying to fix what was on the inside with what was on the outside. Like I wanted it to match up eventually, I think, and just hoping that it would, but it never did. And then, so that's when it kind of got to a point when I was 14 years old, when I just wanted to tell. I wanted it to stop. And, you know, it had gone on for nearly a decade. And I remember that summer, it was the summer before I was about to be a freshman in high school. And we had gone on this family vacation. And I remember getting on the airplane with my mom and my stepdad and my stepsister at the time, and just thinking about all the great family memories we were going to make, because it wasn't always bad, you know? And that's why I think abusers get away with it for so long, because if it was just always bad, if he was just a monster, I feel like I would more readily have told. But, you know, he was, in some instances, a good father to me. You know, he was the one that would shoot free throws with me for hours and hours. He showed up to all of my events. He taught me how to drive the lawnmower. I mean, it was all of those kinds of fatherly things. Also, no one talked about things like sexual abuse when I was growing up. So I didn't have the language for what I was going through. And I was afraid to tell. You know, there were times he told me if I ever told anyone that no one would believe me. I was just a little girl. He was a popular man in our town. I would never see my mom again. She would, you know, leave him, and I would have to live with somebody else. There would be so much shame surrounding that.
What did he do for a living? Was he a farmer?
He was a salesman. So he had his own business. So he was home a lot. And he also was, you know, very popular in our community because he was always out and about visiting farmers, and selling products and, you know, building relationships. So yeah, he was well known, and he was also a leader in our faith community too. So for all these reasons, I believed him when he said no one would believe me. I was just a little girl, and, you know, people admired him. yes. So going on that family vacation and thinking, oh, this will be great memories, but I came back with some of the worst ones. I always, for whatever reason, I felt like sexual abuse was always worse during family vacations. And so we came back from that trip, and my mom and I were in the car. It was just the next few days after we had returned, and it was, again, one of the worst family vacations of my life. And my mom started sharing with me in the car about just different things about her relationship with my stepfather, her husband, and things that she had not shared with me before. She'd always spoken so well of him, like I never wanted to ruin their marriage. But here in the car, she was sharing, that he had acted strange on our vacation, and that he was really angry and speaking to her kind of abusively. And this was, again, the first time I'd heard things like this. My mom confiding in me. And she looked at me as just the two of us in the car. And she said, Nicole, has he done anything strange around you? And it was like, I wasn't sure if it was really wrong. I felt like it was my fault. But it was as if like this was the moment. If I was ever going to tell her, it was now. And I was scared to death because of all the things that I've been told for so long. If I told, these things would happen. So I can just remember sitting in the car and just thinking through all of the scenarios. And finally, I just got to a point where it was like, again, this is my moment. And I just told her, and I'll never forget it. She slammed on the brakes and she pulled the car over the side of the road. And that was the first time in my life that I knew it was wrong. And then she kind of just started asking me some questions, and she started crying, and she said she didn't know what we were going to do, but she would figure it out.
So she believed you 100% right away.
Yes. And I now know that that's very rare, unfortunately, having worked with sexual abuse survivors for over 2 decades now. I mean, the majority tell me, Nicole, I relate to your story so much, except for the part where your mom believed you. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah, it seems like either they're not believed or they are believed, and it's just, boom, a huge wall of denial.
Exactly. Yes, just swept under the rug, or, it wasn't that bad, or all girls go through this. Sadly,
Right.
yeah, a lot of families protect perpetrators, institutions protect perpetrators, and that seems to be the story.
American government.
Yeah. Good grief.
Sorry, I might cut that.
Well, let's keep it because we need to keep talking about it. I mean, it's happening at every level of every type of institutional system. I mean, there's so many more voices now than there were 30 years ago when I told. But it doesn't stop the fact that there's so much cover up everywhere, and it continues to allow sexual abuse to thrive and grow and perpetrators to walk free.
Yeah. This isn't about Epstein or whatever, but you hear about this Epstein thing and all these people, and the only person in jail is a woman.
Yeah.
Not saying she shouldn't be in jail.
Right.
I'm just saying it's interesting that the only person that is in jail is a woman.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, back to your story. This isn't about politics, I guess, but actually, that's not even politics. That's just
right.
Sexual. It's childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Rape, all of it. So it was at that point you knew it was wrong, but by age 14, you knew you didn't like it. Did you ever have an inkling at all that it was wrong, or that?
Yeah. It was like that gut feeling of, it's so confusing,
Absolutely.
I know it's wrong, but I also loved and trusted him.
Right.
And I really had no reason not to. I mean, he was my stepfather since, I was about 3 years old. And it was also going on for almost as long as that. And everyone else loved and trusted him. And so when he told me things like, little girls go through this, no one talks about it, that he had to teach me things about my body, and that, this is normal. So you just question.
But don't tell anybody. This is normal, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah. So that's why it's so confusing. And then also, a lot of abusers, including mine, use the term we. So if we are doing this, we are both at fault. And so even if it felt really wrong and bad, I'm actually a part of this. So there's so much shame around that. And that silences victims as well. So as confusing as it was, it did feel wrong, but the confusion and the shame and the silence and the secrecy felt so much bigger and so much more of a reason to not talk about it. And it was almost like, yeah, this is horrible and I hate this and it's so confusing. Um, but I am the disgusting one. I am to be like, what is wrong with me? And so if I can just survive this until, I'm an adult, then it'll end and it'll be over with and I can move on with my life. Those are kind of the thoughts that were common for me growing up and many other survivors, I think, as well.
Especially when our bodies
Mm.
react appropriately to
Yes.
sexual things. And then you think, oh, yeah, I am to blame for some of this.
Thanks for saying appropriately because I think there's so much shame around that for a lot of survivors of, that my body could respond to my stepfather's touch or whoever your abuser or rapist was. Like, to know that feels like so disgusting and so wrong. And it makes you feel like the wrong person that your body would react. And I really struggled with that, Todd. And I think it was really hard for me to talk about for a long time because it was almost like even after, and we can get into some of the aftermath of telling, but the healing journey is lifelong. And even after I had started that healing work and was working with a therapist and doing all of that, I knew in my head that it wasn't my fault. I was a child. He was the adult. He was the authority figure in my life. He had the power. I knew all of that made it so that it wasn't my fault, but it was almost like that one thing, my body reacting to my stepfather's touch. That's what kept me still in darkness, still holding on to the fact that, wait, except for that part was my fault. So I can't just completely wipe the slate clean for myself. I can't let myself off the hook completely because of that. And it took me a few years to really get to understanding what you just said. My body responded appropriately. It's working the way it's supposed to, the way God designed my body. And so that makes me completely free. It was his fault. It shouldn't have been awakened at 5, 6, 10, 12 years old by my stepfather, by this person who groomed me for years. It's his fault, not mine. And that was really, honestly, the key to taking the shame off my shoulders. It was like this heavy load of bricks that I was carrying. And that was the final one. I just felt like once I understood that, almost like scientifically, biologically, I was able to really take that last damn brick and throw it out. And I just hope that that can happen for a lot of survivors because it's one of those unspokens, I think, that we carry with us.
There's no thought about this. It's just biologically, this is what's supposed to happen. My body's working properly.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. And that I think helped make a connection between my brain and my heart to where I really could truly accept my innocence and my abuser's guilt.
I still struggle with some guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I went through some child on child stuff with another. Wow, it's fucking. Maybe it's too early in the morning for this, but and it was more than just one kid. I never felt like I get it. Some of it was continuous.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I was the one that initiated it the first times, but then other times in the future, it's like, okay, I kind of initiated it. Like, am I the abuser? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it is child on child. There is no like hierarchy dynamic. This isn't a caregiver or something like this. We're at the same age, but yet I still feel guilt of like initiating it sometimes. Maybe not the very first time, but after that. So there's, I don't know. And I don't know if that's a common thing too, or if this is just Me,
I think it's
I
no,
don't, because I don't talk about it much.
yeah. Well, thank you for talking about it. I think there's so much power in sharing story, and especially when there's more than one survivor in a room to be able to share that. And so, yeah, I just want to honor your story and your courage to do that. And I would also validate. I mean, that's so common, so common, because it's like once that's been awakened, you know, it kind of is intriguing. It's something that continues on for a while. And then you realize for many survivors, oh, wow, um, I can get attention from this part of me. I can feel affection in this way. And so I think in a lot of ways,
Or
sexual
sexual
abuse,
satisfaction.
yes, it
Yeah.
begins this journey that only compounds our shame because now we have this whole part of it that was awakened that we didn't seek out, we didn't even know about, except that we were abused and taken advantage of and groomed in that way. Now we are so confused by that that we're acting out with maybe others and seeking that. I mean, I can even remember that with my stepfather, like wanting his affection, wanting his attention. And so
Mm.
becoming what may have looked like later a seductive little girl. Okay, but that's not what I was. I was traumatized. I was victimized and now I needed help. And so for many reasons I think it's more a cry for help than anything else. But as the victim, the initial victim who's now sexualized and acting out in that way, the shame compounds because now we feel as if we're seeking it out. We are now, and that I think that becomes another layer of healing that's needed. It's separate from the initial abuse itself, but it's still almost abusing ourselves.
Yeah, I've never felt like I was abused because it was child on child.
Mm,
That I don't know. I just don't feel like I was like groomed or preyed upon or anything. I just feel like it was. Some people call it experimenting or whatever, but I was like, man, it's not that. That doesn't never felt right for me. That
mm.
wasn't like it was. It was more than that.
I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of
it's just
power
I feel like a
in.
victim of circumstance is what I feel a
Mhm,
victim of really than
mhm,
I do from another person.
mhm.
But yeah, it's that confusing piece of
Yeah.
okay, did I initiate this or did they? And I honestly don't remember. You know, what I mean,
Mhm,
and it's something I never would have brought up or even thought about, except I went through a lot of therapy. I went through getting sober. I did
mhm.
all this stuff, and then it's like these little things that I never really thought about start knocking on the back of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of power in labeling and identifying what we experience too. And I think that's part of the healing journey. For many survivors, we don't call it something specific for a long time. It was like that thing that happened that I don't want to talk about. And then, as you continue on your healing journey, there might be a point in time when you might label it as this or label as curiosity, experimenting. Maybe then later you realize maybe I was more than victim of circumstance. Maybe it was this. And I think that there should be freedom for all of us to, it's our experience. No one else has gone through exactly what we went through. And so you have the freedom to call it what you wish. And you also have the freedom to change that as you go on your healing journey. And I think there will be a point where you can label it or categorize it in a way that really, really makes sense and gives you the most freedom, um, and helps you to really feel like you've experienced some healing. And that's okay. And again, it's okay for it to change as you go. I think the healing journey is like, I always picture it as like this long, long map with like hills and valleys, forests and bright beaches. I mean, there's so many different parts to healing. Sometimes you're just running along like it doesn't matter. And then other times you're barely, crawling through some thick weeds. And so honoring
Or the
your
path even loops backwards a bit, and then you get forward again.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes, like, oh, I've already been here before. Okay. Like, yeah, there's forks in the road. This time I'm taking this direction. This time I'm taking that. Oh, there's people on this path with me. Great. Oh, now I'm all alone. Like it's so different all the time. but to honor your journey as it's only yours, and you get to call it what you want. And no one else can tell you what it was and wasn't. And I think that's empowering.
Oh, thank you for that. I don't know what feeling I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Well, and you're allowed.
Validated, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the word,
Good.
what it is.
Good. I think that's a good thing to feel.
So anyway, back to your story. So then, so yeah, you start talking with your mom and.
Yeah. I mean, my mom, honestly, believed me right away. And I am very grateful for that. We ended up leaving the home, and my mom reported the abuse, and he denied everything. And it was really scary because we were kind of realizing we were in danger because he was looking for us. We were trying to hide at different friends and families' houses because we were to go to court like a month later, which was the very start of my freshman year of high school. It just felt like, what can of worms did I just, open? I was kind of regretting it for a while because it really shattered this perfect girl, perfect family kind of thing. And also, we were fearing for our lives. He really was trying to find us everywhere we went. And
was he threatening you too? Like,
yes, we were pretty certain that he wanted to take both of our lives. So we were in hiding. We had a restraining order, all of that. So long story short, 7 days after I told, he took his own life.
So it's a week after you opened up to your mom.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I remember feeling really angry when I found out the police came and told us. And I just remember running around my friend's house, just, I hate him. I hate him. I just felt like it had taken me 10 years, to tell about what he had done. And then he just took this way out. Like, I wanted to see justice, I think. And that was hard for me because how am I supposed to pick up all these shattered pieces and put it all back together? I'm 14,
Yeah.
But as, time went on, my mom and I leaned on each other. My faith grew. I feel like that carried me through quite a bit of my high school years. And just, kind of moving on. But at the same time, it's like, as much as I wanted to just push it away, like pretend it didn't happen, I didn't even tell my best friend the truth of what I had gone through. My mom shouldered the blame at the funeral. We went and just told everybody that he took his life because she was going to leave him. So she really protected me in that way. I'm very grateful for that because I wasn't ready for people to know. I felt like the stigma of being a victim of child sexual abuse was too much for me to hold, especially in high school. And, but then, as time went on, I realized that telling was my first step of healing, and I had to continue talking about it. And so it was about a year later, I went to this youth camp and I told a little bit of my story, identified myself as a survivor in front of a bunch of teens. And that was the time, like the generation where we did pen pals, we would write back and forth. And so I went home thinking,
you're old.
Yeah, right?
I think we're the same age.
Probably. What am I? 45. I just turned 45. Yeah. But I came home from that summer camp and I began getting letters in my mailbox from other teens at that camp telling me their story. And that was really eye-opening to me because I thought I was the only one. I felt so alone. I felt like, no one had really gone through what I'd gone through. And that's why I was afraid to tell also because, like, what are people going to think about me? But I felt some courage to talk about my pain because I knew there had to be others out there. And I realized there were way more than I had ever expected.
A new season of Love Me is here. Real stories of real, complicated relationships.
It's not even like a gender. I mean, it's wrapped up in gender, but it's just a really deep self-hate.
I think I cried almost every day. I just threw myself on the floor. He's coming on really straight. It's like he's trying to date you all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I do look like my mother.
Love Me, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you feel like you were tainted or damaged, or like now there's like this big red X across you?
Absolutely.
Like,
It was like what I really felt, and I've said this many times, I felt like I had a neon sign on my forehead. Yeah. Labeling me, traumatized, damaged goods, dirty girl, whatever. Because then, I did end up kind of in relationships that weren't always the healthiest, and I would pin them back to the trauma that, I didn't have good boundaries, different things like that. So, yeah, I did. But what I realized that summer was that I wasn't alone. And that was the biggest piece to empowering me toward wanting to continue talking about it, not just to help other survivors come forward, which that was what happened. They were writing to me, "Thank you, Nicole, for your courage." I thought I was the only one. And here you got up and shared what you'd gone through. And I realized like I was, and that was my whole reason for doing it. And so it felt very empowering to be a voice, as hard as it was to say this hard, nasty thing. Like you said earlier, like, let's talk about the worst thing in your life. That's what I felt like I was doing, but it was giving someone else what I would call now the gift of going second. So by me saying the hard thing, it allows someone else to just say, "Yeah, me too," or, "I've gone through that too. Thank you for telling me. I can relate." Like, that's so much easier than having to say all the nasty words of it. And so that became, I don't know, like a guidepost to me in my healing. Like, it's not just about me, it's also about helping others find freedom and find their voice and start their healing journeys. But as we know, healing is a lifelong journey, and it's, it has its up and downs, and we come back to places that we've already been. But I think talking about it is not only freeing for the survivor, but it's freeing for other people who hear the story.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for doing the work you do, and for finding the courage, or whether it was courage or not, or whether it was just a lapse in judgment of it. But the weird, the almost twisted, wow, there's a lot of twisted parts of your story, but the fact that your dad in a way didn't lie to you when he said, "This is something that all girls have to go through." And I mean, not all girls have to go through it, obviously, but in a weird way. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it is so heartbreakingly common.
Yeah, it really is. You're right. I never thought of it that way. Like, as much as he lied to me, that actually was not too far off, unfortunately.
Yeah. So for 30 years, you've been doing this, advocating and talking, and that you must have impacted tens of thousands of lives by now.
Yeah. I mean, that's
hundreds of thousands.
That's what keeps me going. Someone will email me and be like, 10 years ago, you spoke at my college, and I'd never told anyone. And the next day I started counseling, and this is what my life is like now. And I just wanted to say thanks. And I'm like, I mean, these things happen all the time. And it's just amazing how we can just impact another person simply by planting a seed or saying something hard, and it can be relatable and empower them towards making a brave step in their life. I mean, yeah, that kind of feedback has really kept me going and reminded me that as hard and nasty as this work can feel sometimes, that there's a point to it. I'm sure you've felt the same way in your work. Anytime we're helping people out with their mental health, or planting a seed of positivity in someone else's life who's gone through something really, really difficult, or is, like struggling with addiction, just reminding them that their life has value, that they matter, that, that what happened to them wasn't their fault. They didn't deserve it, but that there's a future for them.
That healing is possible.
Yes. No matter what you've gone through.
Yeah. Healing, not being healed. Because no one's ever cured of trauma, I guess, or healed of trauma. It's just an ongoing thing. But
I completely agree. I think that's one thing that I've struggled with like toxic positivity, or, I've spoken in a lot of churches and, like Christian environments where it's almost to a point of like, there's an end point of healing. There's a finish line and we'll get there and you just have to believe your way there. And it's not true. And I think it does a disservice to those who are struggling with PTSD or, chronic mental illness or the things that happened in our childhood. They stay with us, but it's okay. It's okay to admit that healing lasts forever. I mean, if I want to believe that I've already been healed, and then one day I'm triggered by something, I mean, that's going to send me spiraling. But if I recognize that healing is lifelong, and like you said, I can revisit things that were painful in the past, I'm able to breathe through that. I can recognize, okay, I've been here before. That's okay because healing continues in my life. So I've found so much help by being able to communicate it in that type of a language, what you just said, versus, I think the expectation from other people, when people expect trauma survivors to be healed, I think that helps them more than it helps the survivor. It helps them to feel like, oh, I don't have to hear about this anymore. I don't have to worry about their healing anymore because they're healed. That's for them. So I just wish people would be more willing to just be empathetic and walk with us no matter where we're at, even if we're revisiting old wounds.
It's funny, I'm sure I have family members and friends and people on social media that are so sick of me talking about addictions or ADHD or trauma. They're just like, oh my God, this guy just like, get over it.
Yeah. For what? For themselves, because they don't want to keep talking about it. Fine. But there's millions of people in the world, Todd, that need you to keep talking. And they should be proud of you for that. They can turn your podcast off.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Keep listening to, even if you're not listening, just put it on. Because
keep it running.
Yeah, the algorithm. That's exactly right. Mute it. I don't care. Yeah, it's almost like it's like getting a broken leg, and then people are like saying, get over it, or maybe not even get over it. It's like, why do you keep talking about your leg? But now you have a permanent limp. It's like it's always there. It's healing, but things can agitate it. You can come back to it, and I'm healed-ish, but now I have this permanent limp.
That's right.
So leave me alone. Talk about what I want to talk about. Just because you're uncomfortable with my limp.
Yeah, exactly. It's not for their comfort. It's for the millions of people that are behind us in this marathon that we're running. They need to know that there's hope. They need to know that there's people ahead of them that have done some healing and it's worth it. But it's not everybody is already at the finish line. It's people along the way. And that's the work that you and I are both doing, and it really matters. And people who I think want to have expectations of, can you stop talking about it and move on? Fine, for you. You don't have to keep listening to me, but know that my work matters for the people behind me.
And I mean, yours is quite complex. Not that we can really compare traumas and pains and stuff, but I mean, there's all types of people that are survivors of loved ones who took their life. And then there's like a whole other layer to yours of, I'm sure you've gone through moments where, so initially you were angry. I'm sure there's been other times where you felt guilt.
Yeah.
There's been other times where you felt like his death was your fault. Like it's,
I sure
you might
did.
talk a little bit about that whole other layer.
Yeah, I definitely felt all of those things that you just mentioned. I mean, I felt for sure like had I not told, he would have never taken his life, and he mattered to other people that mattered to me. And that's hard. That felt really hard to carry that. And I think in a lot of ways, what we talked about earlier of my need to remove myself from the guilt of my own abuse, I had to do the same with the guilt of his death, and recognizing that just as he chose to abuse me, he chose to take his own life. Those are his choices. And those are the consequences of his actions and not mine. Because as I needed to remind myself, I did the right thing in telling.
That must have taken time to come to that.
Absolutely. Yep. It takes time, and it also takes talking about it, journaling about it, saying the hard things out loud to someone who can speak back to me, maybe if I'm saying something that is false, like
Right.
if I were to say, I know it was my fault that he's dead. If someone said that to me, I know what I would say back to them. And that's what I needed to hear. And so I really think there's a lot of power in community support, especially survivors of the same type of abuse, to be able to speak back to you. And that's one reason why I love running these support groups that I run online, is because they're with survivors, they're with people who get it. And so everybody's story is different, completely different, but there's so many things that are similar that, like, I know what I need to hear. And so I'm going to say that to you. You know what I mean? And there's so much freedom that comes from hearing the truth spoken back to maybe a lie that I would say out loud. Even if deep down I'm like, I know this is probably a lie, but I'm going to try it out, see what happens. Do you know what I mean? And so I would
Absolutely.
say it and hear back the truth, and wow, that how freeing that is. I've talked with a lot of survivors, especially in our Unleash groups, about how once they had someone in their life, let's say it's a niece or a nephew or a child of their own, that's when they recognized that it wasn't their fault. That's when,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because they're
Yeah.
now seeing how much they would protect that little one that they care so much about. When that little one that they love reaches the age that they, had been abused, it helps them to see, wow, I was that age and I'm telling myself that I asked for it.
Yeah.
That has been really helpful for a lot too.
Have you ever was there ever moments where you felt satisfied, I guess, that he took his life, like vengeance? And then
Yeah.
I suppose then you feel guilt about feeling that. That's like
Yeah,
a whole other spiral.
you have named all of them. Yes, definitely. I mean, we had hired a bodyguard to go with me, like, to volleyball practices that fall. Yeah, we were planning that because fall sports were about to begin. And so I was scared to death of running into him. So being able to live my life and not have that fear felt very good. And then I felt bad for that, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, like there came a time when, well, exactly what you said, like, vengeance is yours. You're like, okay, thank you for doing what, I wished you had done for a long time at different points in my childhood, when it was really, really bad, when the molestation was like overwhelming. Like, can't you just be gone? And then he was. And then, oh, great, I wished for that. And then it came true. Now I must be a horrible person. I'm going to hell. Like, yeah, there's so many thoughts that had swirled, especially in those early years of healing, for sure.
And then, sorry, I'm picking this apart, but I'm just putting myself in your shoes. And then feeling, because he, like you said, he was also a good man,
Yeah,
or,
right.
In theory, he was a good man. So then you're also grieving him. And
That's
then
right.
you must feel guilt and shame about grieving him. You're like, wait a minute, he was a dirtbag. And then it's
Yeah.
like, but he wasn't a dirtbag.
Mhm.
But, and then, oh my God. I
Yeah,
can't
and I
imagine.
think what has helped me so much with that, because I felt all of those things as well. I mean, I did feel sad. Like, now I don't have this father figure in my life that really brought a lot of positive into my life.
My mom's best friend.
Yes, exactly. And now my mom's
Mhm.
having to figure out this single mom life with me. Like, wow, this is so hard. But I think what helped me with that, which has helped me with many different facets of healing, is allowing myself to feel it all. That
Mhm.
all of my emotions and feelings are okay. And to try to pretend that I wasn't happy about it, or try to pretend that I didn't miss him because he was a horrible man and my abuser. Like, trying to pretend all these different feelings away only suffocated all the healing altogether. If I didn't allow myself to feel angry, I wasn't allowing myself to fully experience joy. And if I wasn't allowing myself to fully experience freedom and joy and happiness, because I felt like I had to somehow feel bad for him or his family or what I'd done. Then, I wasn't able to feel everything. And so learning through therapy to allow myself to feel what was being felt really, I think, made me feel more of a whole person and able to truly show up in my own life.
Yeah, I love that. The older I get, I don't know, my brain would just like decompartmentalize.
Yeah.
It's a hard
Yeah.
word. It's like I have to feel sad, and then I can feel happy, and then I can feel shit. It's like you can feel opposite emotions at exactly the same time too, and be like,
So good.
okay, this is confusing, but just feel it, because otherwise, you're stunting your healing, and maybe even habitual. You're making things worse, possibly too. So,
Yes, absolutely. I've seen that in the last probably 5 years of how the nuance of all of that is proof that healing is happening. If you can hold two opposing truths at the same time about a memory or a person or whatever it is, I've really seen that to be, evidence that healing is working. It's happening. When we're so black and white and compartmentalized in our thinking, I feel like we're really stunted. We're kind of in this stuck place of healing, and we need to understand there's so much gray there. You can hold two things at once. It's both, and I can feel this and I can feel that, and that's okay. And that's normal. And that's actually adulting.
yeah, I know everybody wants just a real simple, easy answer to everything, and it's not. Life's not like that, unfortunately.
No.
Not always, anyway. and it's so fascinating to me how one split second of time can take years of processing and healing, and like,
Yeah.
especially when it's someone else's choice. It was someone else's choice. It was a split second of someone else's choice. To me, that's proof that there is generational trauma too. It's like this. No wonder this passes on through generations.
I think it's also evidence of how one survivor is different from the next. I've had so many compare their trauma to mine. They would say, Nicole, I relate to you, but mine wasn't as bad as yours. Well, like, how can you compare traumas? Well, mine didn't go on as long. That doesn't matter. I mean, you can set one survivor who's gone through 10 years of abuse next to another survivor who's, this person that was their everything made one sexually harassing comment toward them. And that may have impacted them way more in certain parts of their life than the one who went through 10 years of it. You cannot expect one person to be at a different place on their healing journey simply because it didn't last that long, or it was just one time, or, so I think that's actually helpful to remember that you can't compare your trauma, can't compare abuse. It always affects us each differently. We're built differently. And the generational piece is very real.
And you can't compare healing. You can't be like, hey, I've dealt with it. You were dealing with it too. We are both
right.
healing.
That's right.
Why aren't you as far as long as I am?
Yeah. Or I told sooner, so that means this. Absolutely not.
We're all different, whether it's nature versus nurture and the relationships and with the other person, or with it's just stop comparing yourselves.
Or how you were victimized, or who you were victimized by, or how long it took. We have a lot of people in our groups. Well, it'll be like, I'll just think of the last one. We had a young woman in her 20s who was sexually abused by her stepsister. And she carried the shame of that for so long, because especially feeling like she couldn't relate to other survivors. One, because it was same gender, and also it was sibling. Then we had an older gentleman who was sexually abused by his grandfather, and being a male survivor felt like he couldn't relate. For so many reasons. Then you have another one who is totally different. And so they all meet in the same room, and they realize, like, wow, there's so many different looks to a survivor, to their story, to who it was by, to when it happened, to when I told, to, and yet we all can come into the same room and realize that we still have so many things in common and that the healing journey is available to all of us. And that, I think, is one of the most beautiful parts of it. And then you see how all of the little, misconceptions about my story is so different. I'm the only one, and I'm weird, and I'm the odd one out, and, I shouldn't be here. It all goes away.
How often does a group meet? And what's the name, and how do people find it? And
yeah, thanks for asking. It's called Unleash, and it's an 8-week group. It has a weekly film that I've created with a number of other survivors sharing parts of their healing and their story. So each week is kind of a different topic about healing. So you watch that on your own, and then there's journal prompts you kind of work through on your own. And then we meet online for an hour session. And the groups, they max out at 8 survivors. So they're just small groups, and I lead them. And it's truly the most amazing, sacred, safe space I've found in my life. I just absolutely love it. It's, a place where survivors can just put down the masks, put down their bags from the week, show up as they are, and be truly accepted and find belonging with each other and, encourage each other on this healing journey that we're on. And it's just been really great. So yeah, people, if they're interested, can find out about our groups. We have some new ones starting in, I think, 2 weeks, but we run them ongoing. But they're 8-week groups, and the website is iamonevoice.org.
Awesome. And I love, because it is like I agree. Like sometimes when you do open up about something, it's almost like you give permission for other people then to, what did you call it? The gift of going second.
Yeah.
I've said before, like if you can't find a safe space, then create one.
Right.
And that's what you've done. And
that is it.
It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It's truly an honor to walk with survivors and to see how, the transformation is just so beautiful. And I think therapy is so important. I think journaling is so good. Dogs, there's so many ways, nature, walk, exercise. There's so many ways to
drugs, alcohol.
Yeah, there's that too.
No, I'm kidding.
Ways. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But there's ways of processing it. But I really think being in a community of survivors, that being in a community of people who have gone through the same thing, just like AA or NA, like to have that group that gets it and can encourage you. I just think that it helps you enter a new level of healing. I really think you can only get so far, with one-on-one therapy or whatever you're doing. But having that community, that group support is really something that takes you to the next level.
Yeah, that's something I found too through my stuff is, sometimes one modality or one treatment does kind of run its course. That doesn't mean you're healed either.
Right.
You might have to try a different modality or it's constant maintenance for sure.
And I think staying curious to other, like you said, modalities or group offerings or just, opening up another part of your brain, even art, there's so many different ways that I think we can continue to really heal ourselves. It's powerful.
The group therapy I absolutely loved, in part because I found I have more empathy for everyone and less judgment for everyone because I've talked to and I've hugged and I've cried with someone I would never normally ever talk to otherwise.
Yeah.
And so you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the world.
The world. That's right. It's really true. That's how we become empathetic, right? Is we have to listen to other people's stories and absorb it to a point of putting yourself in their shoes. And that's why I started working with victims of sex trafficking about 10 years ago, because I had come to understand through listening to the stories of so many survivors telling me, Nicole, it was the same story for me. I grew up in a home where I was being sexually abused. Nicole, you talked about how you wanted to run away. You didn't. I did. And that's when I met someone who ended up trafficking me for sex. And thinking about the vulnerabilities in my life, that was a top indicator for someone who would become a victim of human trafficking. But I didn't run away. That was the only difference between my story and so many others. And it helped me to have that empathy towards their stories to these women who ended up, cracked out and, barely surviving on the streets. That could be any of us. And that I think really helped me to not only care about their story, but want to make an impact in their life too. So Todd, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really important piece to all of this.
Yeah, my pleasure. You don't have to answer this. I can hit stop first or whatever, but did you find yourself judging some people like that before you started working with them?
I don't have specific instances of remembering being judging. I think I've always been kind of a person that wants to befriend everybody, but I would say I probably judged how they got where they were. They made decisions, especially surrounding maybe drugs, versus understanding that a lot of times, trafficking victims are given drugs for the simple reason of getting them addicted to their trafficker. They have to go back to that person. And then they need the drugs to numb out to be able to perform the activities that are being asked of them. So that was something that maybe I didn't understand when I was younger. And I might look at a woman who is completely, gone on the street and selling herself. There's a lot of people who judge that kind of situation without knowing the backstory. And her backstory is the same childhood I had. So knowing that changes everything.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I so much appreciate the work you are doing, the vulnerability that you are showing. If you want to reach out to Nicole, she's on Instagram at Nicole_Bromley. She's also got her own website, IamOneVoice.org, and you can go there, and she's got all types of resources, including her own work she's doing with survivors and victims. So please feel free to reach out to her and maybe even take some of her group courses and some of the services she's providing. Please take advantage of that. And while you're doing that, you can also check out my website, bunnyhugspodcast.com. There's links to all my social media stuff, to merch store, to buy me a coffee, all that kind of stuff, as well as some of my speaking gig stuff. If you want to check that out as well, that would be wonderful and very much appreciated. So until next time, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.